Hello, Brian.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. We're not supposed to be talking yet. I got this whole thing where it's like I'm supposed to be like the barista who's just, pulling out the chairs early in the morning. Everyone can grab their coffee. It's a whole vibe. But oh my God, you look fabulous. They're gonna go nuts. This is great.
Hold on.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh man, you guys are in for a treat. You're not even. But we're gonna make you even. 2025 was an odd year. I have a feeling 2026 is the year we'll get even. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. Geeky Stoics' own Riley Blanton joining us, looking fabulous, up in our game. I am. It's all happening very fast. I really have an affinity for how quickly things tend to accelerate when the vibes are right. Boy, your whole camera setup looks fabulous. What are you using?
What I bought the second I came back from Austin.
Oh, really?
It's like a little robot camera. Wait. Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh,
Whoa.
are we row bros? Are we row bros?
we are row bros. Yeah, man, I'm hyped.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for joining us yesterday, and I had a feeling. I was like, I think we both just casually acted like we're just gonna hop on a stream and do some stuff, and I was like, I don't think either Riley or I do things casually. I'm really excited to see kind of where things are going.
Zero chill. But I'm excited to talk about goal setting.
Yeah, let me see if
I peak nerd on this topic. It is the day. A lot of people are Christmas people. I think fewer are Thanksgiving people.
You know what? I'd like to believe Thanksgiving is making a comeback. I think Thanksgiving got a little bit caught up in the political apocalypse there for a second.
That's fair.
Where we all got confused about who our real tribe is.
Yeah, no, fair. But if I could dramatically emphasize, I'm a New Year's person. There's no better time of year. That week between Christmas and New Year's when it's quiet and you can think about life and there's no noise from work. You're coming home from family. The festivities are over and you just have breathing room. It is my favorite. For me, it's the happiest season. If there's a happiest season, that's the one.
So this is similar vibes to God curse their hearts, morning people, which I've turned into. I'm one of those fellow smug, insufferable pieces of work who realize, and now here's the way to seduce people into being a morning person. When the day gets away from you, kind of your own fault. You made yourself available, and then a bunch of people started grabbing you, and you kept saying yes. And suddenly you're surprised that you didn't get everything done you want. Okay, Pro, you could that's going to happen no matter what. The heat death of the universe, entropy is king. So that means if you want to give yourself a gift, that whole getting up in the early, I like it. We'll call it that. Getting up in the early and walking outside. I don't know about you, Riley. This is part of the Brian Brushwood bombastic, over the top, psych yourself up energy. I walk outside, and when I don't see a single car on the street and I don't see a single person walking in my neighborhood, I breathe in deep and I have this core greedy thought of mine. It's all mine. And if I ever get up and people are hustling and bustling, I'm like, tomorrow I'll get you, because this is all mine.
I love it. I love it. Very, very, very Gollum.
So
getting after the day.
let's set the tone for everybody who's peeking in right now. First of all, let me double check chats. There's a few kind of as many people know, I'm doing this is a little bit like watching Brian go to the gym. In that, let's see, test from Scam Nation is that one, and then let me see, test from Test Modern Rogue is over here. Great. And if I reply to myself here, reply. Yeah, that's great. So then that comes. Okay, so those all seem I'm not even going to worry about whether or not X is work. You know what? Actually, we must not forget the X people.
Oh, yeah. I was getting ready to tweet it out.
Yeah, let's do that. In fact,
would, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there should be a post saying testing this chat.
Hey.
Now. And then we could get people in, and I'll do it. Dylan Theus, good to see you in the chat. Flo Chinachi, good to see you in the chat. Dan 33, sleeping one off. That's all right. We'll get you next time.
That's true.
Anthony Albert Kilgren, Happy New Year 2026. Dreadnought Gaming, Happy New Year to you as well. Dreadnought Gaming NL. Bro, you stream too much. Bring back the old card track vids. Literally, your wish is my command. Done. I'll see you tomorrow. Dreadnought Gaming NL. Tomorrow's live stream will be entirely dedicated to you and your wish for card tricks. We'll do a card trick retrospective tomorrow. All you have to do is show up and remind me that I said this, and it will happen. Tomorrow, we have an appointment, 8:30 a.m. I'll see you tomorrow. Dreadnought Gaming NL. Oh, there we go. Nice. Wago 333. Yeah, dude, it's been a year since I've seen you. Okay, testing again.
Those who may or may not join, the clarion call has been sounded, at least in the Geeky Stoics realm. So
great. Well, do you want to click on that link and see if you can put a chat in, and we'll see if it shows up in the mega chat. One of the things that I'm working
on X.
Yeah. One of the games I've been playing is trying to let nobody wants to go to a different kingdom or another county.
Sure.
And so I'm trying to figure out a way to do a mega thread that allows everybody to speak in their own dialect and be heard.
Oh. Look, Brian Brushwood is live.
Okay. Can you throw some test in the chat, and we'll see if it pops up over here.
Ooh.
There we go.
Let's see.
Okay, so yeah, you showed up in that chat, but it didn't show up in the other one, which tells me I gotta auto activate, hit the refresh. Usually that's all it takes. And then I'll do and another. There it is. Okay. We're all good, man. That's our housekeeping. Nice. Now we can begin. All right. Riley, you want to take us in? You want to explain what we're up to?
Yes, let's do it. Let's nerd out. Okay, so we're going to talk about goal setting this morning, and I'm very excited. It is something that I have done for many years. Brian, I know you're a big self-help nerd. Listened to all the audiobooks, done the Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins programs. It's self-help. This is the time of year for self-help. But I wanted to do something a little bit different. I was thinking about our brief conversation yesterday, and I wanted to bring in a very practical way to prioritize or think about goal setting and kind of get your take too, especially because you have the benefit of applying these principles across multiple phases of your career, multiple projects, multiple competing priorities. And I'm very curious, some of your perspective on some of these very basic principles that, to your point, as you said yesterday, we're going to actually write down specific goals. We're gonna do the pinky promise, and we're gonna actually specifically write down with pen, not just typing, on an actual sheet of paper, our goals. And I think this will be a really fun exercise. I wanted to keep this do some context and talk a little bit about the process, but I want to like just preview up front. Let's have one. Let's make that this live stream. We're going to draft our first goal of the year in pen and paper.
You know what I like about this is that it takes away anybody's excuses, because we all could do this. We talked yesterday about how it's hard to run 3 miles. And so you're like, great, what's less hard? To make sure your feet hit the pavement. What's less hard than that? Get your shoes on. What's less hard than that? Set your shoes next to your bed. Like at some point you get to a 0 to 1 of congruency. That's all I worry about is the right now activity congruent with the end goal at the end. And once you look at it that way, it becomes very simple. So as best I can tell, everybody has access to a pen. If not, you're at a computer, you can open a notepad. If not, you're holding a miracle box in your pocket. We could all write it down.
I love it. Yeah, man. But I think, but context is important. So that's the preview of what we're going to do. But I think understanding the why behind it is more important. So if you will kindly allow me to, Brian, I'm going to shamelessly steal something that you're fond of at the HQ, which is.
Oh, look at this. Hold on. Here, I got mine.
Freaking.
Well, wait.
Oh yeah, let's see it.
Wait for it.
I know there's a whole wall of them back in the studio. I know.
Yeah. Oh wait. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, it's blocked. Whatever. I got one that says guilt-free vacation over there. But of course, there it is.
Oh, nice.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is.
But the nice thing about these is that what's funny is I was like, after our workshop, I was going to be like, hey, let's take all these down. But I'm like, why? Are you ashamed of them?
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? Somebody asks you about them and then you get to talk about all the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah. Which, oh, by the way, the first thing I did when I got back in studio here was, it's in the next room, I might grab it, is take one of these freaking giant Post-its, which I became a big fan of, that you use, and draft out a freaking giant Geeky Stoics character diamond. Another conversation for another time. But what I have here, and I'll briefly show.
Burning homestead moment. Your inciting incident.
I do, yeah. Crudely drawn.
You're going to be your own personal. The real hero of Star Wars is the stormtrooper that murdered Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They're personally responsible for blowing up the Death Star. That's what you're doing. You're like, we got to find our own Uncle Owens and Aunt Berus and then put a blaster bolt in them.
No, it's so true. It is a burning homestead moment. So yeah, if you didn't know, I'm a slight Star Wars nerd, as evidenced by the Empire Strikes Back playing on VHS in the background. But this is how I think of goal setting now, and it's changed over the years. And that is a burning homestead moment, an inciting incident. It is the minute and the moment where Luke Skywalker is out of options. He's hemmed and he's hawed. He's rejected the hero's call, and then suddenly his family's burned alive. It's part of the darker moments of the original Star Wars movie. His literal home is burned down in front of him. So George Lucas, not exactly a subtle guy when it comes to storytelling, but it's a really beautiful idea, because I often think that removing options is a great way to think about what you should do with your life. And I think that's the important contextual piece is we talked a bit about this yesterday, but it's much more important when you set goals to define what's actually important to you before you start. Because if you just jump straight in and we're going to say, we're going to do a specific, measurable, actionable, and the first thing that's going to come out is not going to be from you, because I think we're not particularly well attuned to our own values, essentially, our own desires and dreams, because we have all of these various cultural heuristics for what we should value as important without really interrogating them. That's kind of what we talked about yesterday. So my burning homestead moment, I've many, and we all have many. That's the cool thing. But the one I want to talk about is about this time last year. I had a boss. His name was McCrabb. That was his last name. True story. no one wants to cry in front of a man named McCrab. That's that's the TLDR. I remember I was literally sitting in his office, and it's the only time in my professional career, because I'm not a very outwardly emotional guy. People who know me. So this is a very unusual moment for me where I had I lost complete like physical control of my own grief and emotions, because as I was sitting in this government issued chair in this dark windowless office in something called a secured compartmented information facility, or a SCIF. I'm an intel officer by trade in the Air Force. So I spent 7 years of my life really pouring my professional ambition into my Air Force career. And it worked for me because I got respect, and I got a paycheck, and I got like a sense of meaning. I felt valued and respected. And so those external forces were very reinforcing. But what I'd gotten to at that point in my career, at that assignment, Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, is I'd gotten into an environment where the leadership in the organization did not value my contributions. And so I did what I always did, was just work harder. And I think a lot of us have been there, especially professionally, where you just double down on what's worked before. So that's what I did. I stayed longer, worked later, and like that day, or that week, I had stuff to say. This is like stuff I've been writing about for the Geeky Stoics book, but it is my first time talking about it. But I think it's so important because that was the week, and I'll never forget working late, closer to a 7-hour day with me and my team, just trying to do the job as perfectly as possible, even when I knew nothing would ever be good enough professionally in the environment I was in. And I was in that kind of short circuit doom loop where I was trying the same things over and over again. It was like 5, 6, 7 o'clock. I work without my phone because, again, secure government building. And I kept getting office calls on the landline, like the government landline inside said dark windowless building where I work. It's for my wife. She was trying to get a hold of me. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll pick it up. I'll answer. I'll go out and check my phone here in an hour. Another hour went by. Another hour went by. I just couldn't do it. And by the time I got home, it was like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I was just like sitting there in the driveway. I don't know if you've ever had this moment, Brian. I've talked to a few people about this emotional state. I literally couldn't get out of the car. I was like gripping the steering wheel, and I was so frustrated and angry. Everything that I tried to do that gave me sort of meaning and a sense of respect and value, like everything that I'd poured into my work, was just not working. I was a wreck. It was my burning homestead. The home I had built on like how I built my identity and how what I defined as success collapsed because I was trying to please a boss's boss's boss who didn't even know my wife's name. And when I finally went inside, Savannah told me, hey, a coworker of mine was killed in a car accident. And that was the moment I was like, man, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? I'm literally, again, trying to please someone who barely even knows me, my family, my priorities, my dreams and desires. All of my little side hustles here as like a YouTuber nerd and a writer and like all of these things that make me that I kept shoving to the back burner for most of my career. And Brian, you and I have known each other a long time. These are not new flighting fantasies of mine about being a creative person, but that was my burning homestead moment. And that was the moment I realized I have to start making some really tough decisions, because I would make the you can have it all goals. Every year I would make like 20 goals across my fitness and my, Air Force career and relationships. And often it works because like when you use these principles, you will make progress, especially with a lot of the tools and resources we have now. But man, does it matter which direction you go, because whichever direction you choose when you apply some of these principles, here's the weird thing. The closest thing, as Brian has said many times, to real magic is writing down a goal. And so that was my burning homestead moment. Brian, I've heard the Dell story. I know that was essentially your burn the ships. We're gonna do something different with life.
Yeah, but before we talk about that, I want to double click on what I think is a fairly profound thing that you tapped into. Normally, most of the time when I'm talking to people, and this old skeptical person has to explain that. Sorry, I got to do this to get rid of that, and now
No,
we're
you're
back.
good.
Okay. So as a science-based kind of skeptic-y guy, it's already an uphill climb for me to explain. No. I mean this sincerely. Goal writing is like real magic. But what I love about your story is if you're over the hump, if you're writing the goals, you've already decided we're playing with dark magic of the psyche, right? We are going to program our core OS. And if you believe that this is actual life-changing magic, then maybe put some thought in before you start casting a spell. Let's not be Mickey Sorcerer's Apprentice about this, dipshitting our way around like, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that. And then, guys, what if it works? What if it works and you got all of that? Do you have solutions? Do you have an unbelievably big problem and an also not profitable movie? But the but the important thing is, I like the idea of almost as a bit of a ritual, kind of like before we begin, like if you're going to decide to do it, go ahead and decide that you're going to write some words that are going to be like your basic built-in operating system programming interface. This is going to be your core OS that you run on. And it's not going to happen overnight, but it is going to happen through repeated shallow interactions. When you talk about building neural pathways, you can't dig a deep neural pathway with a table saw all at once in one go. It's more like ski tracks in the snow, slight depressions, lap after lap after lap. 1 year later, an unbeatable, unstoppable deep groove has been drawn in your brain. And if you're going to engage in that level of programming, then I do think it's really worth pausing to consider what you're doing on purpose.
Yeah, no, it's so important, and that's what I failed to do effectively or thoroughly until last year, and that was a big shift. That was the point where the biggest decision, and I'll phrase it this way: I think a lot of us, when we feel tension, especially this time of year, and you're trying to like, what do I even want to do? And sometimes it just literally feels like your heart tightens up when you're trying to think of like, what do I want with my life? It's like it is a difficult challenge to self-interrogate. But it's so important. I think I don't know. I think it's one of those things that if you don't, again, you'll accelerate down the wrong road. You'll take the wrong exit. And there's no permanent. It's never permanent. That's the good news. Life can always be a journey of different paths. There's a lot of different ways to get to the same destination. But man, does it matter what destination.
Did you ever
we're shooting
read
for.
Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut?
I can't say I have. No.
There's a conceit of there's an alien time traveler. You see an echo of it in the movie Arrival, where the aliens essentially perceive time as all having happened at once. And the metaphor Kurt Vonnegut uses is they see lifetimes like mountains on the horizon, and they're all done. The mountains are all grown. You look to the left. You're not going to, and you look to the right, and what happens on the left, is part of what ended up on the right, and you could just kind of skip all around. But then you could look at interesting parts. Like if it's all written, if you step out of time, then there is no things suck or things are good. There's only you're at this part. And maybe you're in a bad spot where you're like, oh, this is the part where I make a small internal decision to change everything. And then you'll check back in with yourself a year later and you're like, oh, I'm at the part, if I could talk about myself finally, where I've dropped 35 pounds and I've made a habit of getting up at 5:30 every morning. And now I'm at the part where 2.5 months into going live with office hours every day, I'm now technically competent enough that I could start inviting guests on to take on more important projects. And what's interesting is this is going to be a very forgettable part compared to the part 6 months from now, when all of a sudden people are showing up and they're mad because I launched 1 minute late, and there's some weird penalty I have to pay for having done so. But the point is, when you step all the way out of time, all of these things become obvious, and you eventually get to, out of the realm of what might be of the perfect, you get down to a thing you can do right now.
Yeah. And that thing you can do, when it's based on your own internal compass, your own internal North Star that you've interrogated, it's life-changing. It's completely different. And here's the reality, because a lot of us define our priorities and make decisions in life, one, automatically. We don't actually pause and think about it. And two, based on the opinions of people who will be dead. And we will be dead. And no one will remember any of our names or lives in this world, at least, in 2 generations, 3 generations. That's the cold reality. So why date the person, buy the house, take the job that you don't fully believe in? And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Yeah.
And to be honest, now we get into the question of not to get too hippie on it, but it's I think of it as the domain. There's a moment in my stage show, in my magic show, where I have a gig coming up, and maybe I have a new routine, and I picture it on a big stage with an incredible intelligent lighting and a giant crowd, and then the music's going to drop and the bass is going to be amazing, and everyone will this and that and the other. And then the gig gets closer and closer, and I get more anxious because I keep doing all these things that rely on assumptions of things that are outside of my control. Well, what if the stage is too big? What if the audience is too spread out? And there's this wonderful moment when you get to the gig and you encounter the actual stage, and all of that goes away. All of that highfalutin, high-minded idea, you're like, nope, it's this community college, it's this hallway, and no, they cannot turn off the fluorescent lights. And once you know exactly what you're actually dealing with, and it goes from not the hypothetical, anything's on the menu, to that's it, the end, then things become clearer. And a version of that for people to make their goals, because we all want to make other people happy. We want to make ourselves happy. So, of course, if you're dealing with a health goal, basically pick your target numbers so that 1 year when you do your review, you can know whether or not you did the things or didn't do the things, and you can hold yourself to account. But before that, think about other people that you want to please in your life, whether it's your boss, whether it's your partner, whether it's your children, your parents, your family, and your friends, your coworkers, your collaborators, and decide seriously, what is your domain? Because are you pretending as though you can change all of their lives in just 1 year? Or are you going to say, I can definitely make this person proud? What will make them proud? I don't know, probably them seeing me do this for a year straight. That can happen. And now you have clarity, and eventually your goals are so dead simple, you can't see them not working, and you can't see yourself not doing them, because each individual piece is so dead simple.
Yeah, it is. And you mentioned it right up front. That's the first principle, is specific. The level of specificity. You said pick your numbers, but for fitness, specificity matters. Brian, I think we've teed it up well. I would like to. What do you think would be the most practical, helpful for the folks jumping in the live streams for us to actually go through the process of drafting specific goals? I would love, maybe folks are comfortable posting them in the chat once we're done. We can even kind of talk through and apply some of the principles that we're going to talk about to really punch them up for that one that we pick.
Well, in a situation like this, especially with chat as our interaction modality, it's going to be tough to the extent that people want to just throw wishes in the chat. That's a good way to start.
I like that. That's a good start. Yeah. Because that way you're not filtering by how to write it technically correct, and I'll talk through these principles while you guys write it. So this is your opportunity. It's just think through. All right, what do I actually want? Take some time for that internal interrogation that we're talking about, and throw them in the chat, write them down. And I'll walk through, Brian, just like the key principles, and then we can actually apply them to some of our desires. It could be yours and mine. And then if we have some in the chat, we can do that as well. How's that sound?
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, the reason I say that we start with wishes here, I'll just write the word wishes down, is wishes reveal trends, right? If you're just like, pretend you have a personal genie for a minute and just write a bunch of things that you want. Now, these aren't going to be your actual goals, but you're going to notice that 3 or 4 of them clump together and are really just one thing. Oh, I want my relationships to be like that. And then you think to yourself, okay, well, what is a situation where that can happen? So like, for example, if we'll write here, Brian wishes, you know what? I'd like to hit 149 pounds. And I'm not self-introspecting as to why that number or whatever. That's just what my gut says. You know what? I'd like to be up. You know what? I'd like to be plus 10K per month. Which, again, we're dealing at different levels of scale. Maybe for you, it's like, I'd like to make $100 a month or whatever. But in terms of, I'll clarify that. I'll say total volume, which basically, if I'm introspecting, that kind of means go back on the road. I'll just write the word keynotes. So again, I'm just exploring. So you know what? Let me write that down. On stage. I want to be on stage. And I want to say 3 shows. I want a serious one about, I want to polish up the magic show again. I want to do a marketing seminar or whatever. A thing that I'm happy with. I'll just write here, continue office hours. And then I'll write improve. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I'm just writing the word improve, but it's like do more. And in fact, yeah, let's say more live. In fact, I could stop there, but really I could break out live. I want a lot bigger live audience and bigger live reach. I also want more live content, but not just more content. I just realized, what does that mean? I want different types of content. Places. Let's try going live from different places. And then really all of this, if I reflect on it, they're all versions of, we're in an age where everybody's worried, is this dumb robot shit? And the answer is, don't be dumb robot shit and do your appearances in such a way that nobody could possibly confuse what you're doing for dumb robot shit. And then usually there are 3 themes that always come out. I went to a Brian Tracy seminar and he did the best thing. He said, I want you to write down a specific thing you want for this year and think about it really hard. And then everybody thought about it really hard and they wrote 3 things down. And we're like, okay, now I'm going to do my Las Vegas mentalist a bit. One of your goals is about your health. One of your goals is about a relationship. And one of your goals is about money. And sure enough, those were the exact 3 things that I had written down.
No, it is true. But it's Brian Tracy's some of the best, though. I love his stuff. There's some oldies but goodies that, especially if you grew up listening. Like I even grew up listening to some of those old Tony Robbins tapes, like Unleash the Power Within. A lot of similar principles, but it is powerful because this I really like this, Brian, because what this allows, and I'm glad you did this before we like talked into like principles, because we're not putting on filter brain yet. We're just like interrogating personal desires.
Well, and this is great. Like ICU, I don't know. I suspect that this is kind of like an easy thing to throw out. He wrote, I wish I had a better pillow. I swear I have the worst pillow in town. Like we're at the phase now, no introspection or looking deeply into it, but that's a great starting point. We're just making wishes because eventually we're going to look at, well, let's re-examine my relationship with sleep and. And
you know what, Brian? I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. It is true, though.
Leg lengthening. Let me jot that one down.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, because it's interesting because I'm actually forcing myself to be a little unfiltered because I have these sort of like SMART goal filters that kick in so fast. And like I'm already thinking like I want my book to be a bestseller, and I already know in my brain of like, well, it's got to be more specific, and you can't really control how many people. But no, that's not the point. The point is just like thinking through desires, because the goal setting actual part begins after this.
Yeah, and then if you can't think of a specific project that you have, maybe you don't have anything cooking or whatever, you can also write down a feeling. Like here's a weird one. I want to weep with WITH pride at something I made. What a nonsense, weird salad. But I just saw, you know what, like, just make something that you're that proud of. And then you get to work backwards from there. Like, okay, I'm looking at it and I can't believe it. Is that a particular video essay? Is that a one-man show live performance I did? Is it my daughter surprising me that she is getting eloping or whatever?
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's also a really good process. Yeah. If you don't have the thing right now, to use your vernacular, Brian, if you don't have your weird thing at this moment, that's a great starting point. Because then as you're brainstorming, you can say, is this going to put me in that direction in terms of an emotional state? And you'll know.
So what about you? What are you, we're sort of jumping around. So if you're playing along at home, just jot down wishes and feelings. And by the way, most of the people are watching this not live. So if you're somebody not live and you've been watching through this, like, what the heck is going on? This looks like a lane change. You're right. Buckle up. But you can play along at home, jot down, in fact, pause the video, pause the tape now, and fill up your page, a few pages with wishes. You notice that once you start, they're going to get easier and easier to write.
Yeah, no, totally. I was just kind of going through a few of mine. I'll just spitball here. Again, these are not formatted as goals. These are just like some things that Riley would wish for, or is thinking about. So my burning homestead moment led to my decision to, all right, I'm going to find the exit ramp, and I'm actually going to make this transition to full-time pursuit of more creative life, of being a creator, being a writer, and I'm going to finally write my book, like all these things that I wanted to do. And so that gives me this whole laundry list of things, and they're always competing with each other. That's why this might be some of you guys, but the whole idea of like, I want the book to sell well, to be like a bestseller when the book comes out later this year. I want speaking gigs. I wanted to go speak at Comic-Cons, go kind of get a keynote talk. I would love to do actual workshops. I have like a whole like draft workshop called Find Your Death Star that is actually literally like a nerdier version, believe it or not, an even nerdier version of this. But again, because I speak nerd and I come from nerd world as like a former Star Wars podcaster, these are the principles, and that's sort of my tribe that I want to reach. But like figuring that out through the Geeky Stoics channel and actually professionalizing the offers that we have in terms of actual in-person events, retreats, speaking events, like going beyond just the YouTube channel, which is taking off and doing well, but that can be like its own time suck where that just becomes the all-consuming thing when that's not the goal. And those are just some of the things that are kind of popping to my head about this whole kind of wish and dream session we're having.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is at the wish and dream phase, we're not concerned about to what end we want our YouTube channel to be success. We just know we're playing with the YouTube channel. We want numbers to go up. But I guess now let's assume everybody's filled up their stuff. This is usually the part where I would say, what are you seeing a lot of? What are you seeing? Like just if you need to put them into buckets where it's like, oh, I got to reach out to so-and-so and I got to keep promises with this person, that person, then you could write a clarifying statement like reestablish contact with my core family, my tribe, relationships or whatever. And then you could say, well, what does that look like? And then you could come to a clarifying statement. For example, maybe it's every day contact one surprising friend. Now, what does that mean? Now, notice what I did. I didn't say contact one old friend, because you're going to run out of old friends. You're going to you don't want to say rich friends or family or whatever the category is. That's so finite that future you is going to run out of the obvious ones, and then it'll get hard, and then that's when you may fall off. But a surprising one, that is subjective. Future you will always be able to look inside your catalog and say, what's a surprising friend I can reach out to? Yeah. And then you'll think like, oh, from the college days maybe, or maybe you open it. Here's the thing, I ain't done in forever. Looked at my contacts on my phone, or who was the first person I ever tweeted? And then find them. And then now, what a simple 3-minute quest every single day. That's like putting the shoes next to your bed. There's no way to not do that, you know?
Yeah, no, I love it. In fact, I love the term quest. There's a productivity YouTuber, Ali Abdaal, and he literally calls his whole goal setting process quarterly quests, which is a lot more fun and sounds like less corporate than this is our Q2 goal to achieve the revenue markers. No, well, I like the language of quest.
I do too, which unfortunately means it's gonna be cringe. We love quests, which means that they're gonna get corporatized, which means they're gonna become cringe, and it'll become something else.
It's a matter of time.
Yeah,
it's a matter of time. No, I love it. Shall we talk goal setting?
Yes. All right. Here, in fact, I'm going to let you drive, because you are more dialed in on this space. I want to play student for a bit.
Oh, sure. Well, and it's again, I think I'll reemphasize, Brian, what you last said, because I think it can't be overemphasized, which is when you have this sort of list of things that you're thinking about, dreams and desires, there's often a trend in a category, and that's going to tell you maybe a direction to go. And then often it will, as I'm going through mine, really, as I'm looking at the things that I want to accomplish, the key enabler for those are time and emotional energy. And so the things I can do in my life to be more ruthless about prioritizing my, but the first thing and the first principle, accomplish, and specific literally means one thing. You can answer this question, or you didn't do it. That is specific. The level of specificity is even more important when you're for creative projects. So I think I'll use the book as an example. I think write a book is specific, but in my case, write a 50,000 word book delivered by March 14th to Post Hill Press. That is a very specific timeline. We're already introducing some other elements, and it also tells me exactly what I want to accomplish. So write a book. It's specific, but it's really just a starting point. So that's probably the first and honestly most important part, and it's where most goal setting goes wrong, especially if you're beginning this for the first time, because often that sounds like I want to be more present. There's no measurable. Was I more present or not more present? There's not really an easy way to measure that. That's the first one. So that is specific. The next one is measurable. It's an old corporate phrase, but I love it. You can't manage what you can't measure, this is the quantifying part for the quant nerds. So income is a big one here. So like, I'd like to earn more money than I did last year. Not particularly effective. Brian, you've already introduced a measure in income. Like, I would like to earn $5,000 additional this quarter, or I would like to earn $10,000 this month. Having a specific number that you can measure, that is the extent of how measurable the goal is. So again, specific is either black or white. You did it or you didn't do it. Measurable is how and the extent to which you can measure what your goal is.
And keep in mind, a thing that I like is oftentimes you can't guarantee an outcome, but you can guarantee your at-bats at it. For example, yes. I can't tell you whether or not 6 months from now you'll be able to bench press 200 pounds. But I can tell you that you can measure whether you made sure to do bench day 3 times a week, every single week for the entire year.
Yep. It's huge. It's huge. In fact, that's I always this part is most important probably for fitness goals in particular. Like if you're working towards a weight loss goal, figuring out what your measurement mechanism is and what works for you personally, because stepping on the scale every day, spoiler, it doesn't work for a lot of people. You forget, it may not be very trackable. Maybe it's Lose It. Maybe it's a calorie tracker like Lose It or MyFitnessPal. That could be the measure of like every day I'm going to do this. They're measurable means you have a way of tracking it.
Yeah. And by the way, I like tracking because tracking implies not just that you're measuring one time, but tracking means you have a data point over time. A story is told, like a literal Apache tracker would look at footprints and tell you the story of whether the person is injured, what they were carrying, why they're limping, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. There is a story that reveals itself in all these data points. That's what we want in our measurable, so that when we look back, when we have that looking at the mountain range, we could see that was the part that made possible this other thing. That was the part where I went the wrong way, but then eventually course corrected.
Yes, and that habit tracking particularly, it's a James Clear thing that's been popularized from Atomic Habits, and it's so important. And there really are, if I'll take this brief side joint for a second, there are really 2 types of goals. It's either achievement or it's a like habit goal. And I prefer, you can blend the 2 or one can cause the other, but those are the 2 you have. The final outcome, the advantage to achievement goals is they're usually more exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They're usually like there's a race that you run. There is a weight that you hit in time for the wedding. Like those usually are most motivating, but often they're the least effective at keeping consistently. So if you've had, especially over and over, like this is your 3rd year in a row, like I don't even want to set a weight loss goal. I do this every year. It never works. Often that's because you haven't implemented a habit portion of the goal. You just have the end state in mind for the achievement goal.
Interesting. All right. So smart, specific, measurable. What's next?
Actionable is our next. So every goal should start with an action verb. I think just in basic principles, it should be quit. It should be run, finish, eliminate. Like these are action verbs. Like a bad goal would be like, I'd like to be more consistent with my live streams on Modern Rogue. Not going to be actionable. But I will go live with vMix at this time every day, every weekday. You know, that is going to be an actionable. It's both actionable and it's also a habit. So you'll kind of
understand even what we are doing right now, these office hours sessions, in order to allow this to be the community college with the fluorescent lights on, I make sure to set expectations very low. I don't call it life-changing time with Brian Brushwood. I call it office hours. And the first words out of my mouth are, remember when your professor would just do whatever he was going to do anyway, but you were allowed to show up and ask questions? That's it. And if it becomes something else, it'll do so over time. But the point is, now we're in a comfortable lane where I could keep on doing this forever because this is all literally work I got to do regardless. And it's just a little bit of extra calories to be doing a one-man band during all of this in front of everyone. But the point is, we've built a structure that is repeatable over time, that over the long haul, like the rivulet that eventually carves out the Grand Canyon, over time can have big changes.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that's a really good illustration. And then the next one, Brian, is where I'm changing things up. I'm actually I'm stealing this straight from Michael Hyatt in Full Focus. When we get to the R in SMART, he calls it risky, and I actually like that a lot. It's the idea of a goal that stretches, doesn't seem out of reach, but something that feels risky. So this is where I think the full system is called SMARTer, and just to be like the TLDR is that like risky is the first new concept. And then we end with time bound, which makes sense. There should be a date by which you accomplish it. And then the final ER, smarter, is exciting and relevant. When you have an exciting and risky, those are the 2 elements that Michael Hyatt adds to the traditional framework. When you have an exciting and risky goal, it is so much more motivating than than something that's just something you feel like you should do or feel safe and comfortable. If you write down a goal and you're like, yeah, that sounds about right, you're not doing it right. It should be like a little bit of like, okay, I feel a little sense of motivation, a little sense of like increased heart rate, excitement that I'm taking a risk here, but it shouldn't be like fear or like, all right, this is completely impossible. It's not feasible. And that's like the full framework that I like to use when I'm setting goals for the new year.
So on relevant, is that a backronym to essentially say congruent with like unpack relevant for me?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, because relevant is the single word that ties back to the beginning of our conversation. And you can only have a goal that's relevant to you if you've defined what your values are or what's important to you in this season of life. So I've seen in the chat of like, I saw an earlier post of like, hey, I'm working 2 jobs right now. I'm really at a season where I haven't been able to prioritize connection with my family. So a value, you just communicated something you value that you're not experiencing, which is more quality time with your family. That's a beacon. That's telling you when you set a goal, what is it going to be relevant? If you're like, I want to set a goal to increase my performance review at the 2 jobs, that's not going to be relevant to you because that's not where your heart's calling you in terms of your own values of what you want to prioritize.
So and I guess we talked a bit about internal versus external validation.
Yeah,
I guess that feels to me, and you could correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but as kind of a checklist to do afterwards is a once over, like make all your goals like this and then ask how many of these are external validation, how many of these are for internal validations.
I was going to initially say no, because I really think the value setting exercise is valuable to do at the beginning. But I think, to be honest, Brian, not to like just go off the cuff here, I think you're right, especially if you've never had that, which is most people, this was me until last year. You've never actually like written down, I think strawberry.me does this, like they'll work with you to write, what are my values? Like if I asked you now, Brian, not to like suddenly interrogate you, but do you have like specific values that you've written down or something that you kind of keep in your head of the things that are most important to you?
I'm in a bit of a weird place in that I keep such a public diary. I don't think I'm very hard to figure out if you listen to much of the content that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like you've heard me in various live streams say things like, what broke my heart when I lost my brother was not the half empty bottles of Jack Daniels. It was the half completed promises that he punched out, leaving unfinished. So like that is a core value to a fault. I mean, we've talked a bit about this. I packed on some pounds and did a number on my health in my commitment to make the Founders Day Eclipse event work. And then it ended up taking 1.5 years to undo the health damage of being overly Ahab-like fixated on that. And that would be a case where it's possible for your goals to get away from you, for you to get a blinder on that. But now I'm at the part where it's like, hey, let's all acknowledge that something truly once in a lifetime happens. You landed the plane, and the party happened, and now we're on to the next. So we could be in the past, fixated on that, or we could be in the future. A strange thought experiment that I started engaging in is, imagine 5 minutes ago you were a celestial being pressing a button for the world's greatest roller coaster, Humanity the Ride. Then the only rule is you don't get to know when or where or who you're going to pop into. But if you did play it, wherever you ended up, you just got here. First thing you're going to do is do an inventory. And so for me, it was very clarifying to say, all right, I just got here. I appear to be an aging out body. Ooh, this is neat. I'm in the wealthiest civilization in the wealthiest time of all of humanity. That's a good pull. Body looks to be a little bit of a fixer-upper. You got something called retirement. I don't know what that is, but it seems like it's resources. Maybe I could divert some of that to cause this hardware to improve. And then once you start playing your own life like a real-time strategy game, and you have no value judgments, no narratives that you're tied to, no I woulds, but I just have to, like, give yourself, just as a thought experiment for a minute, pretend you're new management and you just got here. Whatever happened, and I'll close the loop on this, Macaulay Culkin refers to his time as a child like that's not him, but he is the beneficiary of that inheritance. He's very thankful for the inheritance he has got. His ability to fill theaters nowadays is based on his ability to tell good stories and be, as a man, an interesting person, but it is derived from, the door was opened from his inheritance of being a cog in a big machine that made him a popular, beloved face doing an owl face on a poster. My point being, you are not your resume. You are not your past. You, at all times, can decide you just got here. And then these goals are the kind of games you can play as you sketch out a plan for what next.
It is. It's well, and I'm such a nerd. I can't help myself. But it's the literal definition of what Luke Skywalker does in the original Star Wars film, because there's this moment, the homestead burns down. He's out of options. And if you'll remember, if you'll just rewind just like 15 minutes in the film, Luke had a dream. He wanted to go off to the Imperial Academy, be a cool TIE fighter pilot. He wanted to be Top Gun in Star Wars. He didn't have the context. He didn't have this hero's journey of defeating the dark side or saving the universe. Like, none of that was there for Luke. But he makes this decision, and he finally answers the call when faced with his burning homestead moment. And it's not like, well, I guess now's my chance to go to the Imperial Academy. He's challenged. I want to become a Jedi. I want to learn the ways of the Force like my father before me. And it's so simple, but it's so beautiful, and it's so funny. Like, you watch these scenes as a kid, or the twin sunsets, and like just this iconography of what it means to, like, again, zoom out. I love the RTS view, because you could literally do that with Luke Skywalker of like, all right, well, the homestead is burned. There's no more Tashi Station. There's no more moisture evaporators to attend to. You go off to the academy, or this old wizard's offering you this interesting opportunity. Are you gonna take this, what starts as a side quest? And that's where the burning homestead moment. You can interrogate your past to look for these motivating moments that tell you a little bit about who you are. And this is where I believe in Geeky Stoics, is that these stories that we grew up with that we love actually tell us that. Andrew Main, I was trying to, like, how do I talk about this book? And he was gracious enough. We were chatting, and he's like, I had this phrase like, your favorite stories are telling you something. And that was like my phrase for the book. But Andrew said it better. Like, these stories tell you who you are. They tell you a specific something. I printed this because I think, if nothing else, it illustrates, if we were to like recall Riley's life. We have an illustrator working on some elements, but this is like a simple pencil sketch of like the first chapter of the book. But it's that idea, like, that there was me, like, always for 7 years of my life working in dark windowless government buildings, but in the back of my mind was always just like the twin sunset in the background. Like, that idea of knowing there's something out there is the starting point. Finding that something, the real-time strategy piece, looking at your life, like, that's the exciting part. That's the fun part. That's why I love this time of year. So sorry, I get a little passionate about this stuff.
No, this is great. And now at this point, we want to pull out. Oftentimes, this is the part where you start jotting down things and you start to see it. You start to see the possibility of a different level of your own performance and excellence, and you begin to demystify the steps in between here and there. You begin the working backwards exercise. There's some moment where you're getting the trophy, or where the audience is standing and applauding, or you sign the document for that first house or whatever, and then be in that moment. Give yourself a moment to first-person shooter, be in that moment, and remember back what happened just before that. If you're accepting an award, who are you thanking and why? And fill in the gaps. Go ahead and auto-complete all of that. But that'll give you clues, for example. Part of the whole reason when, I like to, part of the reason I changed the set that I have is so I could point to these trophies back here. I never thought much of them because they were in the before times, before the internet started providing real data about what I was able to do in terms of reach and storytelling or whatever. But before any of that, the only way to know if you were a good magician or not was to go compete in these large magic competitions. They were very serious deals. They would run all day, and the audience it was a big deal if you're a judge. They were anonymous, and then they would rank and rate in points. And if you won, that became the kind of thing that you could put on a piece of paper and then get yourself booked, and then more people would see your show and so on and so on. So I knew I had a good magic show, but I was trying to picture, okay, I'm on stage, a lot of people are watching me. What are some of the stories that I've told? And I knew that everybody I respected in magic at some point had done a lot of street performing. And so I was like, great, I'll be able to get the reps, I'll do the polish, everything will get better and better over time. And then you throw yourself into, so that revealed by remembering backwards, starting in the future, they're remembering back, where did I learn how to be this good? Oh, that's right. I put myself in a position to do something very hard that was outside of my comfort zone. And when I realized, like, the nice thing about performing on the street was you didn't have to ask permission, not even from the cops. If the cops chased you off, that was also the part of the story that everybody told. And so it's like, there's nothing to stop you from going, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. That's so true. I love it. And that visualization, especially when you think of, often there are these people that we look up to, fictional or otherwise, that that tell us a bit of that story. And to your point of like looking at your heroes in magic, they all have these sort of common experiences that you can chase after, which is much more relevant to you in the early stage of your career versus just trying to immediately get on the Tonight Show. Like, that's not how it works.
Right. Well, and that's just it, is you can ask the question of, in order for me to do blank, who are they looking for? And that's part of the reason that Scam School came to be, is I had a failed TV pitch that through I would like to think no fault of my own, I just watched a bunch of mid decisions happen around me, and I didn't know that they were as dumb as they looked. And so they got a very bland, boring pitch, and they passed on it. And I thought, and I was mad. I was like, okay, I want to host a TV show. I was like, what's the first thing that they're going to look for in a host? They want somebody who's already hosted a TV show. And it's like, well, I can't do that. But there is this thing of online video. YouTube is the thing, I guess. And of course, there was 8 different competitors at the time. But I was like, okay, what do I have? What I have is a fully booked fall schedule. And on the way, there's always these 2 to 3 hour blocks where I have to zoom in and out, where I have to move my body from point A to point B. If I wadded up some t-shirts in the corners of this car and I stuck in a camera here and a camera there, maybe we could hit record for 3 minutes at a time and get little vignettes and have adventures on the road. And so I began doing Brian Brushwood on the road in 320 by 240, very low resolution. A few thousand people watched them, but most of the value was in having done it. There is nothing more powerful than the difference between hypothesizing how it might go in the future and remembering how it went in the past. And when you go from 0 to 1, then that is the biggest difference that it makes. So my point being, yep. I think I meandered into the field here. What we want is, with that specific measurable stuff, is break it down into those bite-sized, start with the forever future thing, remember backwards for the adventures that built the skills. How did I get so good? And then answer that question and then solve for it. And then eventually work your way back to present tense you and bridge that gap between you and the gym.
Yeah. No, I think I'll actually use my own experience as an example here. So I'm going to, let me grab it over here. I have this sheet. So I was deployed last year. I was in these United Arab Emirates, so over Christmas and New Year's, I was in my little hooch at Al Dhafar Air Base, and I wrote these draft goals. Now the biggest one was the one that I had failed. I made a video about this on the channel, but it was a half Ironman. That's been a dream of mine for better part of 3, really almost 4 years. And I had signed up for not one, not two, 3 different Ironmans. I looked 3 different Ironmans across 2 different Air Force assignments. And what had always happened is that the demands of the day job dwarfed my own ambition and my own commitment to my goal. And so while I was deployed at that last year where I made the decision to not chase what was best for professional recognition, which is another high ops tempo, high deployment assignment, I chose the current assignment I'm at, which is teaching at the leadership school at Maxwell Air Force Base. And that allowed me to, and I knew I would have the schedule to, practically speaking, make a smarter goal related to achieving what I had failed to achieve for 2 years previous, which is running a half Ironman. It's interesting. I'm going to actually, I'll read it off. So this was probably late December last year, about this time last year, my Q4 quest, as I called it. On December 7th, 2025, I will successfully complete the La Quinta Ironman injury-free by following this 20-week training program. I hyperlinked the Google Doc to my training plan. Throughout the 3rd and 4th quarter, I will never miss more than 2 workouts in a row. So I had a calendar of workouts. I had a habit, so I was going to allow myself to I can miss any workout. Any given week, I can miss a workout. I've got 5 to 6 training days a week. It's okay if I miss one. Never going to miss 2. And that, I figured out what motivated me of like, if I did the like, I will never miss a workout, that would never face real life effectively. So that is how I got specific and measurable to me in terms of like exciting and relevant. That this goal was sort of like my FU to my previous life. It was my like, I am changing my priorities, even if it means less quote unquote professional success in what I should do in my Air Force career. I'm going to carve out more time for my priorities creatively, and then obviously for this big fitness goal. Because Brian, as you well know, these things, these races, when you train for them, kind of all consuming. What's funny is I failed that goal, like effectively. I did not run that race. A buddy of mine texted me who's done 3 of these and said, "Hey, I know you're interested in this Ironman thing. You want to come up to North Carolina in October and we'll do it?" And I was like, well, crap. And that was the last missing piece. And the reason I say that is that what you're doing right now is not the gospel. It's the starting point. I did not run the La Quinta Ironman. I did not go to California. That was the race I was looking at. But just by putting it out there and by connecting with a friend who had shared ambitions, who'd done this before, finding a fellow traveler, I actually ran a different race earlier in the year. So my year last year was insane. I was deployed through March, got back R&R, moved to a new duty station, started a new job, started a training program, and ran the Ironman in North Carolina. And the only reason I did that was not just because the goal setting is the technical right, smarter framework. It was because it was most aligned or most relevant is the language we use with what I truly cared about. I was actually finally making it a priority instead of like, no, I can do this. I can go to in the military. I can go to weapons school and take these assignments and deploy again, and also still run an Ironman. That's do it. No, you have to choose. You choose your regret. I always like that phrase. You always have regrets in life. Choose your regrets.
Yeah. So the way I think of it, it's a bit too morbid for me, but I've heard that some people love to read obituaries because it makes them think in terms of like, am I living the kind of life that they would write this kind of stuff? And here's the world's boringest obituary. He did this, and then he won at this, and then he won at this, and then this next thing was clearly easy enough for him. And what really gets said is at no point did he reach beyond his own arm length. You know, it's like he never reached beyond his domain, and he never flexed and failed. And is that a very interesting story? Personally, I don't think so. It's like it's that Tyler Durden. What, do you want to die with no scars on your body? Come on.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And only because it's painful and it took me 4 months to train for, I will answer Chris's question in the chat. It's a 2.2 mile swim. It is a half marathon and then a 50 kilometer bike. So it takes a minute. But it was fun. I had a great time. But it's one of those things that it was a bucket list for me, but it was so much more fun that I did it with a buddy of mine who I've known for 10 years and reconnect. It was our opportunity to reconnect. It was so much more meaningful than even what I was writing, theoretically when I was first setting the goal, where I just thought like I would be just doing it by myself. But yeah, no, it's so true.
Yeah. And I liked, there was one of the goals that you mentioned that risky. Let's double click on that. What I like about risky is genuinely hard. Do you have a chance of, I heard it once defined as, if you do everything right, is it still 50% chance you fail? Now
I like that.
We're doing something interesting. And you lived that with that Ironman, right? I mean, it's like you did everything right and it failed.
Yeah. I did everything right, and I pulled my left peroneus tendon halfway through the half marathon. So I ran the last 6 miles weirdly and awkwardly on the ball of my foot, stopping every mile to stretch out. But my goal is I will run injury free. Ideal, you want to follow all of your training and have everything go perfectly. That definitely wasn't the case. But again, to your point, those are outside of your realm of control. I did everything right. But also, I'm not 24 anymore. I'm 34, and so these are just the risks you take with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, do you have a particular number of goals that you like?
I do.
Talk me through that.
I'm a big fan of 4. I like having one goal, and I will say this. This is it varies based on your stage of life, but especially from what I learned earlier in my career, where I would make 10, 12 big goals. It just splits your focus too much. And I think it removes the discipline, Brian, of what you're talking about, where you really just looked at your dreams and desires and say, what is going to be the thing that enables these? Because that's really where you focus down. I think 4 is the magic number. That's what I've done the last 2 years. That's what I'll be doing this year over the next 2 or 3 days, is really distilling down. And I'm actually going to take this sheet of dreams and ideas and distill them down into the actual smarter framework and choose my 4 goals. And I like having one per quarter, generally speaking. Last year, obviously the 4th quarter was my Ironman goal. The 1st quarter was a weight loss goal. Spoiler, often the 1st quarter is that's when Riley likes to lock down. That's, it's dry January. It's the time to cut back. And spoiler, that's probably what my goal will be this year. I lost about 20 pounds during the deployment last year. And so I'd like to at least double down and overtake the couple that I've gained back throughout this year. It's my nice January reset. But yeah, that's at least how I like to think of it.
Yeah, I don't mind. Well, let me give a counter to that. Part of the reason I like having lots of lists of goals is because I make sure once they are codified to place them in very important spots. 1, in the shower. It's one of the few places, almost certainly, you're not on your damn device, where it's just you and your mind, and just tape it right up there on the side. It's the only thing you can read. So similar to back before we had smartphones, if you had nothing to read in the bathroom, you would pick up a shampoo bottle just to read the ingredients of it. So it's I want lots of goal setting, Brian, to be reflected upon in that dark bandwidth moment. And then second place I posted in the mirror right next to my face. Now that's where I want to see just 4 goals. I want in my peripheral vision, every time I look at my dumb mug, I want a reminder of what are we doing? Because goals are quite simply a written contract between present tense you and future you. That's all it is. There's the you that's playing the real-time strategy game, who said, yep, this battalion, you're going to go and face the enemy. You got it, boss. And then eventually you're going to hit that first-person shooter moment where you're going to be like, There's way too many of the enemy. What was past me thinking? And you will not have any excuse other than to try to survive that level. And then you're going to go back and be like, real-time strategy, Brian, what were you thinking? And it's like, yeah, it's what we needed. We needed the scars. Let's keep on going.
I love that. It's Age of Empires 2, Brian, versus what, Call of Duty, Brian?
Yeah, and that's the frame of reference that I've used my entire life. I guess for the last 20 years since I quit my day job at Dell. It's like I made decisions like a real time, like I was playing Civilization, and then I executed on decisions. And I'll tell you what, man, it leads to some real bummers. Yeah, did you know that small rural communities in West Virginia will still actually throw fruit at your stage if they don't like your show? If you're a little bit too sarcastic and anti-traditional magic, they may not like that. It's incredible.
That's a good point. But I see Waggo in the chat. Yeah.
Waggo's asking if we could have the VOD. I believe all the VODs are available for rewatch. I think they always do. But if there's something in particular we need to do, just let me know on that. But I'll tell you what. Any other things on goals before we start plugging Geeky Stoics?
I'll give my parting shot, which is just an offer to you, Brian, and I think it goes to what Waygo's saying. I think now's the time, taking the time at the new year to actually get started, actually writing down the goals. That's the thing. If you're watching this, please actually write it down. That's what makes the difference. It is actual magic.
I don't care about the quality. I don't care about the quality of the goal. I don't care about the quality of the handwriting. I don't care about the quality of the presentation. Just outside your brain. That's I'll know if you're serious if I hear the words about to, gonna, try. Those are all code words for not serious. Right, past tense verbs. I wrote, I spoke, I recorded, I posted. Those are real. Now you're playing the game, and we could judge whether you're playing it right or not. But what I have no tolerance for is a bunch of word salad that boils down to gonna try and think and feel and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, no, that is so true. It is so true. So that's the principle. That's the most important thing to do. My offer to you, Brian, is I will gladly, and I think it would be great if we hop on here at office hours once a quarter, jump in at Q2, because that's what everyone forgets. This is the motivating time of year, but that is the other reason why I like a quarterly goal or a quarterly review, is that you're actually holding yourself accountable and giving yourself 3 more times throughout the year to get excited about where you want your life to go, instead of just doing it at New Year's. I think that would be a great tradition we could do this year.
Okay, well then let's begin by challenging everybody to get other people in the same game with you, whether it's in the Mono Rogue Discord or do you have a Discord for Geeky Stoics?
We sure do. Yep, it's linked at the top of our YouTube channel. You'll find it there. Geeky Stoics. Search for us, find us. If there's one video, it's called Luke Skywalker and the Impossible Dream. I would recommend watching that one. I think it's the most relevant to our current conversation. And yeah, check it out. Appreciate you.
Super. All right, gang. Well, then I'm gonna take us out with that. That was too good. That was nice and easy. All right, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:30 sharp. I want those goals written. I want you bragging about them. I want you to tell me all about them. See you guys.